Some say that both the world wars were the result of a massive, worldwide conspiracy by an elusive secret society known as the Illuminati. Others say the wars were really all part of the same grand European power struggle between the old world and the new, between royalty, politicians, communists and capitalists. Others say it was just a series of unfortunate events. What is the truth? Do men plot? Yes, they do. Are there secret organisations that have manipulated society and even brought about war? Yes, there are. Did they create the First and Second World Wars? Yes, they did. Are they behind the rise of the Nazi Party? Yes.
To set in motion an industrial blitzkrieg that will make it possible for England to blast Hitlerism from the face of the earth.
It was fully and freely debated. Men were stamped interventionists and isolationists, and the debate grew bitter. Into this free debate trooped the agents of the aggressors, for they too were permitted to speak in our democracy. They wore Hitler's uniforms, but they wrapped themselves in the American flag. They preached the doctrine of racial and class hatred, for Hitler had said America could be conquered from within and fall as an overripe plum to the Nazi master race.
As if by pure coincidence, Movietone were waiting with modern colour cameras. The Nazis even created Freemason concentration camps to deal with dissidents who were forced to wear an inverted red triangle. By 1935, Hitler ordered the full dissolution of all Masonic lodges in Germany and accused them and the Jews in conspiring to create a world republic. In 1937, Goebbels even held an event to show all the objects seized by the state. When the war finally began, the Nazis banned Freemasonry in all countries under Nazi control, or who were even allied to them. This included Norway and France, and in each state the Nazis again rolled out events to highlight the Mason-Jewish conspiracy. In 1943, when Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrendered the German army to the Soviets at Stalingrad, Hitler denounced him as a Freemason. It is estimated that between 80,000 and 200,000 Freemasons were murdered by the Nazis. A very similar story can be found in Mussolini's fascist Italy, where, in 1924, members of the fascist party were told they could not be members of the Freemasons. In 1925, he dissolved the Freemasons, using the claim that it was a political party and hence outlawed. One military general actually gave up his membership of the fascist party rather than leave his post as deputy Grand Master. He was arrested and sentenced to 30 years in jail. In Hungary, where a dictatorship was declared in 1919, a brutal campaign was undertaken against Freemasons. Libraries, lodges, works of art were all stolen or destroyed. It was outlawed completely in 1920. It was, they claimed, a meeting place of the enemies of the People's Democratic Republic, of capitalist elements, and of the adherents of Western imperialism. In Spain, the story was not so immediate, but still went against the Freemasons. In 1928, 200 Masons, including the Grand Master, were arrested and jailed for plotting against the government. By 1936, things had turned worse, and any Freemason found in nationalist-controlled areas were arrested, tortured, and killed by death squads. The witch-finder general was Father Juan Tusquet Terrats. He gathered together a list of over 80,000 Freemasons, and yet the official Freemasonry records have only 5,000. Nevertheless, they were rounded up and murdered. By 1940, and under the new leadership of Franco, Freemasonry was officially outlawed in all Spain and was punishable by a minimum of 12 years, and anybody above 18 degrees would face the death penalty. So were the Spanish right to fear the Freemasons? Well, the truth is that they did hold a high office in all elements of government and military. Indeed, they were proud of the fact. The bond between brothers was so strong that many actually preferred to go into exile than leave their lodge. From the outside looking in, such fraternity among people who hold very powerful positions could be said to be dangerous. A kind of power behind the power. But could we as easily say the same thing about people who are Catholics? They too have strong bonds and belief systems, and they too often hold positions of authority. The question is, where does the suspicion end? The problem is, it ends with brutality and murder of innocent people. The fact is, anti-Freemasonry had been bubbling in Europe for many years. It was seen as a threat to many people in power. Ever since the 18th century and its official origins, the society had come up against opposition, and yet it grew. Wherever men meet, then some kind of conspiracy will always happen, whether at the lodge or church. Children in the playground conspire, it's a natural thing. The problem comes when those conspiring hold great power and conflicts of interest occur. Freemasonry is not innocent of causing the downfall of governments or regimes. It has appeared to have its hand in many pies. But there is insufficient evidence to pin upon them all the claims made against them by the fascists and Nazis. It is not a basis for mass abuse and murder, and our history reveals that things can rapidly get out of control and innocent people suffer. If the Freemasons had really been so powerful and in control, it is doubtful they would have allowed such abuse to continue, and they certainly would have tried to get the Americans involved in the war sooner. In Japan, there was a secretive right-wing organisation known as the Black Dragon Society. Taking its name from the Black Dragon River, its official origin was in 1901 and was intended in the Russo-Japanese War over Korea and Siberia. The Japanese Imperial Army even used the Society's spies for espionage and assassination. They employed warlords and psychological warfare with propaganda. Eventually, the Society became incredibly useful during the Second World War, as their agents were spread across East and Central Asia. They had thousands of contacts within the Islamic and Buddhist nations. They had very quickly become one of the most powerful Asian secret societies the world has ever witnessed. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, they became a more mainstream political organisation on the right wing. We are led to believe that they only had a dozen or so members at this time, but those members had links with and control over government officials, business leaders, military commanders, and various nationalist organisations. Although their origin was to aid the Russian Empire, they eventually reached out across the world. In the USA, they were implicated in the black nationalist groups which were tried and convicted of sedition in 1942. Members of the Black Dragon Society were arrested by the FBI in California on March 27, 1942. After the war, the US occupiers of Japan outlawed the group, and it was disbanded in 19. It was here that he learned the sacred ways of the early Gnostics and occultists from people such as the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. And this is the root of the secrets of James Bond. The occult secret is in fact a work upon the self and the methods employed to create the perfect person. Fleming needed this because he was a troubled youth. Fleming eventually became immersed in the world of secret agencies and secret societies at the very highest level, and he loved it. But how do we know this? Ian Fleming explicitly said that Bond was Manichaean, a distinct Gnostic concept, and one revealing the psychological duality within the man, who created Bond as an alter ego in order to overcome his own emotional turmoil, as well as make distinct Gnostic statements. Relatively unknown to the wider world, Ian Fleming actually translated a lecture given by Carl Jung himself on the mystic Paracelsus. During this and later periods, Ian Fleming became greatly influenced by the world of the esoteric, and James Bond became for him a Calvinist dragon slayer. Gnostic thought states that we must unite opposites in order to be whole and discover our true self. This was imaged in alchemy as the union of the male and female. Only by uniting these two could the great work be completed.
He thought of the girl, and the thought gave him strength. He wasn't dead yet. Damn it, he wouldn't die, not until the heart was torn from his body. Dr. No, Ian Fleming.
James Bond only ever saves the world when in union with his female counterpart. The Bond books, and indeed therefore films, are scattered with alchemical and Gnostic references for those with the eyes to see. They are also full of etymological clues to the real meaning hidden within these modern mythical plays. Ian Fleming associated with or was influenced by mystics and spiritually inclined individuals, which reveal his inner and hidden thoughts. People such as Rosamond Lehman, Dame Edith Sitwell, with whom Fleming was going to write a book on the mystic Paracelsus, Aleister Crowley, Sybil Leek, Sefton Delmer, Dennis Wheatley, Sax Rohmer, Dr. John Dee, Carl Jung. In fact, it is well known that Fleming kept his groups quite separate from each other for secrecy. The code 007 was an esoteric read about extensively, Shifra, is shunya. This word shunya or sunya is a Sanskrit term for the void or nothingness. This is not the same as that perceived by Western eyes. Instead, it is a distinct metaphysical reality, from where everything comes. In fact, it is a source of the true self, and here Fleming is pointing out that the code within Bond is the source of everything. But more than that, a very real idea that Britain would unite with the Nazis to fight the Russians was used. Using this and bogus astrological charts, Hess was sucked in and actually flew to Scotland, where he crashed and was arrested. A plot worthy of a James Bond novel worked perfectly, and Hitler was fuming. However, although the plot was perfect and it did actually work, the British government made a mess of the following events. It appears that Churchill believed the claims that high-ranking British officials were in reality pro-Nazi. On top of this, the Nazis countered and said that Hess was in As a child, Adolf Hitler attended classes at a Benedictine monastery, which is where he first saw the now infamous swastika. Here he sang in the choir and claimed that he dreamt of one day taking holy orders. "I am now, as before, a Catholic, and will always remain so," he is reported to have said to one of his generals. The Catholic Church, in fact, never excommunicated him, and when we consider that a person could be excommunicated for just misdemeanours as giving water to an infidel, then this is quite a turn-up. The stark fact remains that the Catholic Church turned a blind eye to the Nazi oppression, especially as it had just spent the last few centuries trying to rid the world of Jewry itself. In fact, taken to this end, and the hidden links between Freemasonry and the Catholic Church, we can start to see a picture of a Christian purging of the Jews in process. A process that appears to have been going on for an awful long time. Some have claimed, however, that this was a balancing act, in that the Jews were getting too powerful in Europe at the time and needed trimming. The Catholic deal with the Nazis involved having further privileges for its priests, and even permission to get involved in the public school system, with a massive $400 million in state aid. It also led to a clearing of anti-Catholic lawsuits, as by 1940 Hitler had erased or quashed over 7,000 legal cases against Catholic priests. All in all, the Catholic Church was doing quite well out of the process. A concordat with the Catholic Church in 1933 stated the following: "The German Reich guarantees the freedom of the profession and public exercise of the Catholic religion. Catholics shall enjoy the protection of the state in the same manner as the employees of the state." To the Catholics, this was all perfect, and so why should they make life hard for the Nazis? To the Nazis, they gained prestige and, seemingly, backing from the Roman Catholics. They also needed to ensure that their allies of the future, Italy, would not be upset. Many authors have in fact shown that even following the end of the war, the Nazis were aided in their escapes by the brothers in the Catholic Church, escaping via monasteries and nunneries and into deeply Catholic countries in South America, especially with the aid of certain Jesuits. It would not do to call people into a secret society and then for them to be left high and dry when the whole thing collapses. Franz von Papen was the Chancellor of Germany between June 1932 and 1933, and first Vice-Chancellor of the Third Reich under Adolf Hitler. Papen has been called Hitler's mentor, and to this end he should have theoretically known what Hitler himself was thinking. Papen gives us an insight into those thoughts in his book My Conversations with Hitler. Hitler has put into practice the high ideals of the papacy. What exactly Papen means by this we really cannot say, but it implies the obvious, that Adolf Hitler was working directly for the Pope. It turns out that without Papen, Hitler would have struggled to gain power. Papen was born to a very wealthy Catholic family in Westphalia and served in the First World War in Turkey. On his return from the First World War, he joined politics on the far right, and in 1932 was plucked from supposed obscurity by President Hindenburg to be Chancellor. It was this friendship that allowed Hitler's rise to power, as previously Hindenburg had said he would never allow Hitler to become Chancellor. Franz von Papen, it seems, was a highly influential individual in the politics of Nazi Germany, and he was also a Jesuit. Papen saw through several elements which helped the integration of the Catholic ideals, including the mixing of the Catholic youth and the Hitler youth, and signing the Concordat between the Vatican and Munich. Pope Pius wrote to Hitler, "To the illustrious Herr Adolf Hitler, Führer and Chancellor of the German Reich, here at the beginning of our pontificate, we wish to assure you that we remain devoted to the spiritual welfare of the German people entrusted to your leadership. During the many years we spent in Germany, we did all in our power to establish harmonious relations between church and state. Now that the responsibilities of our pastoral function have increased our opportunities, how much more ardently do we pray to reach that goal? May the prosperity of the German people and their progress in every domain, with God's help, to fruition." In fact, Pope Pius began a tradition of holding a birthday party for Hitler, sending warmest congratulations to the Führer in the name of the bishops and diocese of Germany. Here is what Hitler himself thought of the secretive Catholic Jesuit order. "I learned much from the order of Jesuits. Until now there has never been anything more grandiose on the earth than the hierarchical organisation of the Catholic Church. I transferred much of this organisation into my own party." A former chief of Nazi counter-espionage said, "The SS organisation had been constituted by Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit order. Their regulations and the spiritual exercise prescribed by Ignatius of Loyola were the model Himmler tried to copy exactly. Himmler's title as Supreme Chief of the SS was to be the equivalent of the Jesuits' general, and the whole structure was a close imitation of the Catholic Church's hierarchical order." Indeed, we even find that a lot, if not all, of Mein Kampf was believed by some to have been written by Bernhard Stempfel, a Jesuit priest. It would not be the first time that the Catholic Church has been implicated in the running of a state, and it would not be the last. Across time, there has always been a secret society somewhere working on something. What, who, and why are always the question. During, before, and following the Second World War, a great many secretive organisations were at work, and they weren't always the secret services of a particular country. Often these secret societies crossed boundaries and borders. They passed by religion and royalty. They met in secret, decided upon ultimate outcome, and set in motion a series of events. Sometimes the plans worked, sometimes they did not, but they always watched and waited, adjusting and meddling. They may change their names, appear to disband or walk off into exile, but the spirit of change fostered by these secretive men remains. And what of today? What will historians discover in the future about our times? Who is truly in charge?